My name's James Gilliespie. I work with UK Trade Investment. If you don't already know, we're part of the government, part of the Department of Business Innovation and Skills. We work with UK business and we help them export and grow their business overseas. I've been with UK Trade Investment for 3 years. Before that, I was in the real world, like you guys, selling stuff in a variety of markets. So I've worked in South America, Europe. I've taken business into Australia, into Korea for the first time for the business I've worked with. And I've done that direct selling. I've done that through agents. I've done that through large-scale distribution as well. So a whole variety of different models I've worked through, different sort of contractual arrangements, and a whole bunch of different personalities along the road as well. So let's just think a little bit about why do we ever consider using agents and distributors. Primarily, a lot of businesses are strapped for resource. It doesn't matter whether you're a one-man band or you're a large multinational, you're always going to have a restriction in resources for when you want to expand into new marketplace. So that might be a very good reason why you might want to use a partner to help you get into that marketplace for the first time. And using an agent or using a distributor is going to be a typical way where you might do that if you're not going to do that on your own. And one reason for that is to mitigate any potential risks of going into that marketplace on your own. If you were to do that yourself, there's a lot of research you're going to have to do. You're going to do that anyway, but there's an awful lot more research if you're taking that whole financial risk of your brand and your product or your service into the market yourself. There's a lot of travel that you're going to be going to that market yourself. There's a lot of exposure you'll be giving directly to that market with your brand or your product or service without any real filtration going in or buffer in between. So one reason of using a partner to go into that market is going to mitigate risks. Hopefully, it's going to reduce your time to market. The fact you've got somebody working with you that should know the market better than you do is going to mean you can get into that market quicker. And all of that's going to mean you're going to be saving costs. Costs all over, whether it be travel, hotel expenses, legal, maybe getting the wrong product into market in the first instance. Sometimes if you're going on your own and you don't really understand that market intimately, it might take 2, 3, maybe 4 different attempts at the particular product. Sorry? Josh, is that better? I think someone wants the volume up. Can everyone else hear me okay? Okay. So as I was saying, it might sometimes take more than one attempt to be successful with a product or service in the market, and maybe working with a partner is going to reduce those number of iterations for you. Again, a reduction in costs. Maybe this sounds a little bit pessimistic. Why does it all sometimes go wrong? But a lot of the time I get involved with business is where they're dissatisfied with a current agent or distributor, and I start to go through some diagnosis with them and try and figure out, well, you know, where did all this kind of go wrong? And I've just got a bit of a hit list here of some of the key areas that we end up talking about when there's problems with partners overseas. And if you can be mindful of some of these when you start out, I think that's going to help you when you start to develop that relationship with a new partner. So usually the comment I hear quite often is, they said they're going to be growing my sales by 20%. I've had nothing like that. In fact, nothing's grown at all in the last 3 or 4 years, and I'm paying them a retainer. And I've got these huge logistics costs, and they're not paying me in 30 days, it's 60 days, all this sort of thing. But usually it's about sales. That's the whole reason you went into a new market in the first place, is to grow your sales. So performance isn't as expected. Territory. You sign up an agent for, let's say in Germany, and all of a sudden there's inquiries coming from that agent from Austria, from Switzerland, maybe from parts of Eastern Europe, and you're thinking, well, this is good business, I don't want to turn it down, but that's not really your territory. How do you manage this particular situation? Again, making it quite clear the boundaries of your relationship with that agent or distributor is very key, and to not allow that distributor or agent, unless you want them to just naturally expand their territory without that being a strategic decision that you, the brand or business owner, actually want. Understanding right at the very beginning what the other business interests are of that agent or distributor, quite key. There might be some conflict. They might have, especially if you're dealing with government contracts, you might need to know, thinking about the 2010 Anti-Bribery and Corruption Act, you might want to know if they have family members that are working for the organisations you might be doing business with. That might be causing you problems. Quite relevant, bearing in mind there's an international corruption conference going on, I think, today. If your product or service has intellectual properties of value, and I very much doubt it doesn't, who is owning that particular intellectual property during that whole relationship you have with that agent or distributor? And articulating that is very, very key. So I know distributors that are quite happy to set up a website in the country domain with your company. And right at the beginning, that might sound great, you know. Well, it's very, very proactive, you know. They set up a website with the company name, with their country domain. This is great. And then the relationship falls down, and now you want to set up maybe with another partner, but your old partner owns that website in that country. And you can't take it off them because you actually don't own the IP in that country for that particular domain. So understanding, that's just one example, but understanding who owns the IP when you go into a new country with a partner is very important. Payments. So assuming you are successful with the agent and they do generate more revenue for you, how's his commission structure going to work with the agent? How often are you going to pay them? How are you going to check what's been sold? What currency is that going to be transacted in? Is that in the currency that you're selling the products to them at, or the currency that they're selling the products to the end users at? What about the foreign exchange fluctuations during that 3 months prior to you maybe making a commission payment? There's always unforeseen costs that always crop up after you, usually 48 hours after you signed a contract. But you know, who's going to handle the exhibition costs for the first trade show you do together? Is that something you're going to cut down the middle, which is quite common, you know, or is the agent or distributor expecting you to supply all the marketing communications, all the stand costs, the promotional costs, whatever? They can be quite a lot of cost when you're breaking into a new marketplace. It's important to understand who's going to be covering those. More relevant for distribution rather than agent, but you know, if you've got a product that's perishable, that's quite fragile, you know, understanding how that distributor in that new market is actually physically handling these products, how they actually packaging them, shipping them to your end users, is really important. This might be something that you've spent a long time working out and figuring out in the UK, how to get your product from A to B so you don't get abnormal levels of returns. Well, it's not safe to assume that every country has the same standard of logistics that you've been developing here in the UK. You'll have to put that same sort of due diligence in place in that new country. So understanding that that distributor has that same standards that you're expecting is very important. Whether it's a distributor or agent, you will have less control, and that's something you have to come to terms with as a business owner. Where you've controlled everything from picking up the phone to a client, to making payments, dealing with the accountant, maybe shipping products as a small business. When you're bringing on board an agent or distributor, you will have less control. Contractually, you will have less control. They will not necessarily want you talking directly to their client. They maybe not want to share the data of that client with you. So understanding how that level of control is going to pan out over a period of time is very important. And if it's not been possible to navigate your way through all these problems, you're going to end up maybe the relationship breakdown. And it is possible, it is normal that you're going to go just like with employees, with a sales employee of your business, and you think this isn't working out, I need to recruit. It's going to be the same with an agent or distributor. They're not there forever. So if it's not working, get a new one in. You know, if you're feeling it's not working for you, just like with an employee of your business, you're going to have to think of a new way of it working. It might be that you started off with an agent and you're thinking, no, I'm going to need something else. Maybe it's going to be distribution. Or maybe we go for a direct employee route and actually employ somebody directly in the country. So just because you start off with a particular strategy in a given market, it's not necessarily the strategy you have to follow for the next 5 to 10 years. So if relationships do break down, it's important you have a good, solid contractual basis to start with, because that allows you to have a more elegant way to exit the relationship that allows you to move on to the next stage of your business. So just looking really at, a few areas for agents and best practice for selection, assuming you know what market you want to go to, and we're not covering that here. But for an agent, what is their value proposition they're bringing to you as a business owner in that new market? It has to be their network, because that's what you don't have. But it has to be a live network, and it has to be a network that isn't just based one way. So it's all well and good for an agent to say, I know all these buyers in this particular sector. Well, that's great, but do they know him? Is it a two-way street of communication? Is it live? So that network needs to be live, and you'd have to find a way of checking that out. So it might well be, well, do you mind if I speak to some of these buyers that you've talked to and just get an idea for how you deal with them, maybe with other businesses that he's dealing with? They have to be credible. So is this somebody you would employ? Is this somebody that you could imagine being a long-term partner? It's not quite husband and wife, but this is somebody that's going to be representing you in a given marketplace. So they have to be credible. They have to be compatible with you. As it's not, it's a more of an intimate relationship, an agency than a distributor a lot of the time. So they have to be compatible with you. If you're expecting emails and communication to be responded to within 24 hours, this is the sort of person that's going to be having that sort of responsiveness? Or are they the sort of person that likes to wait 2 or 3 days and do everything by phone? Is there compatibility with the working relationship? Are you both seeing the same vision with regards to performance? If you've got a technical product, do they understand the industry? Do they understand the sector? Do they understand the regulation, the technical requirements of your particular product in your particular sector? And I'll just mention again, do they have any conflicts? So I think, that's 6 key areas to have in mind when you're meeting with an agent for the first time. If they approach you on a trade stand, you can very quickly go through kind of a little bit of Q&A and touch on some of these, and try and ignore the cloud of enthusiasm that an agent's going to be putting your way about how successful they're going to make you in Iran in the next 12 months. For a distributor, not that different. But there's a couple of extra areas here that I think are important. For a distributor, they're essentially going to be your customer contractually, because they're going to be buying product from you, hopefully. Buying product from you and storing it in another location. So you need to be thinking, when you're doing due diligence on the distributor, very much the same way you'd be doing due diligence on an end user here in the UK. So do they have financial stability? Can you do a financial check on them? Is there good product alignment with their current range of products that they stock and distribute in that given marketplace with yours? It makes sense that the whole point of using that distributor is you are leveraging their existing distribution supply chain and just popping you in there. Asking a distributor to get into a brand new sector, making brand new contacts and brand new networks doesn't really make an awful lot of sense. So thinking about a contract, you wouldn't want a contract that runs into hundreds of pages, and this might look like this is a 100-page type of contract when you're trying to cater for all these different types of clauses, but it doesn't have to be. I think I've seen good contracts that run into 5 or 6 pages. They're very, very easy to read. Yes, you do need to have a lawyer check them out. Yes, you do want the contract under the laws of England and Wales, but I think generally the idea is that with a discussion, with some simple templates, you can cater for most of these key areas. So I think doing your upfront due diligence first, as we've talked about. The next thing is contracting for success. The whole point is if you can get rid of some of these ugly discussion points early doors, right at the very beginning, this isn't something you're going to have to talk about 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year down the line. You already understand right from the get-go what the parameters are of this relationship. So what are the key responsibilities? Who's doing what? How long is this contract going to last for? It might well be that you're not quite sure how long you want to give this particular venture in this marketplace breathing space. You might think, well, we're going to give it 12 months, we're going to give it X thousands of pounds, and if we haven't got 10% growth in that time, we're going to exit. Who knows? But put a duration on it and make it very clear with the agent or distributor that this is where we're at. This isn't forever. We might just want to do a short term and see what happens. This might be a motivator for the agent or distributor to actually get moving quickly. But have a duration. That's very important. Certainly in Europe, when you're looking at exiting from a particular arrangement, if you don't have a duration termination period, it's very difficult to now to exit that particular agency agreement unless you said this is 2 years or this is 3 years. Make it very clear what the territory is. And if that distributor agent gets inquiries from outside of their given territory, how is that going to be handled? Make it very clear what products or services that distributor agent is going to be selling or distributing on your behalf. It might not be a whole stable of products or services. It might be just be a niche portion of them. But you want to keep them focused. You don't want them going through your website or products and services saying, I've seen something that you're doing in this particular market and I've got a particular client that's interested in this in my market. And you say, well, that's not what I want you to focus on. That's not a key strategic growth area for us in that marketplace. So keep them focused with the particular products or services that you have strategically developed are going to be right in that market. Again, we've talked a bit about IP. Metrics. How are you going to measure this relationship going forward? So right at the very beginning, maybe just measuring it purely on sales isn't necessarily going to be the best metric, because you understand it's going to take several months maybe for the distributor or agent to understand how this is going to work, get out into marketplace and start to make a difference. In some particular business models, it might be years. So during that period, how are you going to measure the performance of that agent or distributor? They're going to be a bit subjective. So it might be on, market intelligence information. How, providing you with market intelligence on a regular basis. It might be visit reports. And, what is it you want content-wise in those visit reports from their clients that they're visiting that's going to make you feel that they're actually doing a job for you? So get an understanding of how you're going to measure this relationship. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to numbers of sales, value of sales over a period of time, because this is going to be your exit plan if things aren't going right. We talked a bit about cost of promotion, samples and trade shows. Make sure you cover that. Payments, commissions, what currency, we've covered that a bit, but get that in black and white. You don't want to be squabbling over who paid what and when at any point in time. You've got more important things to think about, which is growing the business in a positive way. And we don't really be talking about and getting arguments over commissions, believe me. Communication, frequency of reporting, that's important. Who owns the customer data? So if you're in a B2C environment, that distributor might well be generating an awful lot of valuable information on customer data in that marketplace that in the UK is really valuable for you to analyse. What if they have set up a new website under your agreement in that new marketplace? Well, who accesses the Google Analytics and who's controlling that and who can share that? Right at the very beginning, it's very easy for you to get agreement, because that's the point where the distributor's saying, I want to work with you, you want to work with them. So now's the time to say, you share everything with me. You've got more chance of that coming to a yes now than you have after you've signed and 3 months later. Yep. And you really do want the customer data, at least portions of it that are appropriate. Warranties and liabilities, who's dealing with returns, for example. How are you at what point would warrant a cancellation of this contract? And that comes pretty much down to the performance aspects, or maybe conflict when there's going to be a legal problem. And then thinking about the legal jurisdiction of the contract, which will be England and Wales. There's no negotiation over that. That's like point number one. You do not want to have a legal battle in New York. You can't afford it. You don't want to be doing that. You don't want to have a legal battle in Australia, because just the airfare and everything else is going to be complex and you're dealing everything at arm's length. It's going to be here. So don't get drawn into any sort of discussion around that, please. I might have sounded a bit pessimistic with all the things that can go wrong, but it's challenging for it really to make this work. I know lots of businesses go through quite a few agents and quite a few distributors before they get it right. So, but at the end of the day, you've got somebody working for you in that marketplace, and that has to be a true partnership and relationship working there, which is why I'm saying get all the horrible stuff over with right at the very beginning. You can then file the contract, put it away somewhere, and start to focus more about business development, not worrying about some of these areas of the relationship that can sometimes taint the performance. How are we doing for time? So how can UK trade investment help? Well, most businesses that work with us, generate additional revenue in a quite a short period of time. If you haven't been into the big black lorry over there, I advise you to do so. There's a couple of screens. There's export opportunities, live export opportunities now. You can put in your particular product or service that you're interested in the market, and there's actually businesses out there right now that are potentially looking for what you're selling. And we can help you connect with those markets very quickly. We can do that by the fact we've got over 100 key global markets where we have staff, UK trade investment staff in those markets that can connect you with those businesses. We can help, if you're not already figured out exactly what's the right market for you, we can help you research what the best market is. We've got a lot of workshops in the area where you're from, probably, to help you overcome cultural barriers. We can help with strategy, due diligence maybe over an agent or distributor that you've maybe found, and help you advised over contractual issues, how you might set that up. As I mentioned, there's free export opportunities in the big wagon over there. Or if you prefer to do it on your own, just go to exportingisgreat.gov.uk and have a look. I think there's about 2,000 opportunities at any one time that you can search for. I've got some free agent and distributor templates that I can share with you, so if you drop me your card afterwards, we can send those off to you, and I can also send you a copy of these slides if you want those as well. So I think we've got a bit of time, so if anyone's got any questions, I'm here to answer them afterwards. Thank you very much.